find a bridge between our organizations and a single artist, but we're fortunate, as Ann mentioned, to find that in Terence Blanchard. You know what a great musician he is, what a great player he is, what a great band leader, beautiful writer, an orchestrator, film score, the list goes on and on. He holds a unique position. I will tell you this, the idea of a homecoming, that concept was shared with me by a great Detroiter named Mel Wanzo, the trombonist with Basie band. More importantly, he was a great Detroiter. He taught, he hung out with the students. He always used to talk, we used to get together, and one of the things we talk about often is when you're on the road with a band, and all the musicians don't want to talk about, it's that flight home after 2 weeks or 2 months. It's that homecoming, that feeling of being on a flight, going back to your family, going back to your neighborhood, going back to your friends. And there's a very special feeling that, as much as we love to play and share this music around the world. And the homecoming series came from that concept. I remember when Mel passed, one of the last things we talked about was homecoming. And he held my hand, he said, "Chris, you know what this is like?" And I said, "No, what's this like?" He said, "This is like going on a tour, but there's not going to be a homecoming." And I remembered that, and I said, that's going to be part of everything I do. And we hope that Terence Blanchard, as our artist in residence, will feel at home here with all of us, with the festival, with the Detroit Symphony Orchestra, and with all of you, because he's got the goods, he's done the work. We say the wrench work in Detroit, he's done the wrench work. He deserves to be here and everywhere, and we couldn't have found the more perfect artist to be a bridge between our two arts organizations and to represent both of us as artists in residence this year, particularly at the 2012 Jazz Festival. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Mr. Terence Blanchard.
Thank you, Chris, Gretchen, everybody here for being here. When I was listening to Chris talk about the lineup, I was trying to think of a word to describe it in my world, and the only word I could think of was damn. I tried really hard, trust me. I kept hearing my wife, "Don't say that in public." That's the only thing I could come up with. Because you guys have been talking about the importance of it culturally, but I want to talk about the importance of it socially.
Come on.
You know, Chris just said he hopes that I feel welcome, feel at home here. One of the things some of you, or probably a lot of you, don't know about me is that I already have a connection to Detroit, and it goes back to my childhood. This goes along the lines of mentorship. You know, when we were, Winton, Branford, Donald Harris, and myself, when we were in elementary school, we were so geeked just to try to learn how to play jazz. We'd go anywhere. I mean, it's, "Hey man, there's a jazz seminar going," and we all show up, you know. And we heard about this one guy who started this workshop in the summertime, and he did it at the Dryas Street YMCA in New Orleans, Louisiana. And we would be there every Saturday because he was showing us how to play changes, and he would tell us about improvisation, and he would just sit there and play all day long until we got it. His name was Willie Metcalf. And Willie used to talk about Detroit a lot, you know, so my connection with the city started then. He talked about growing up and knowing all the great musicians that had come from this historic place. The list is long, just like it is in Kansas City and New Orleans. And he spoke with a certain type of passion, but here's the thing that was really the most amazing about it. Socially. We all come from middle-class families and neighborhoods. And we all come from neighborhoods where people were trying to do better for their families. So there was always this divide about which way you could take, which direction you could go in life. My Saturdays were taken up with Willie Metcalf. So while I was at music camp with Willie Metcalf, some of my other friends were doing things they shouldn't be doing. Right. While I was learning more about the world through Willie Metcalf, they were learning more about other things. While Willie Metcalf challenged my thinking in terms of what I saw on television, every day versus what I saw in that band room with him every weekend. My friends were doing other things. And it struck me today because I met this young man right here, Stephen, as a saxophone player. You're going to hear him in a little while. And we were talking, and as I'm talking to him, you know, I'm seeing myself at his age. This was about 2 weeks ago. With that same type of wonderment, the fear of what's going to happen in your life, the fear of what's ahead of you, all of those things. And the thing that I'm trying to reassure him about is that as long as you stay on your path, as long as you're in the company of people like this, who love you and want to see you do the best, you'll be all right. But the main thing about it for me is that looking at this lineup for this festival, understanding that it's a free festival, that's what strikes at me the most. Because you don't know what kid is being influenced by some of these musicians that they're seeing for the first time. I'll give you an example. Growing up in New Orleans, I would go by and I would hear these musicians play. And I'd always wonder, I said, well, man, why are these guys doing this? They don't seem to be making a lot of money. I don't see them on television. I don't get it. It was a very strange thing because for me, television was telling me at that time when I was a little kid what was socially significant. But the music taught me another lesson. The music taught me about democracy, integrity, doing something because you love to do it, not because you get paid a lot of money. Doing something with people who you admired, not despised, or were jealous of. Coming together as a community to learn more from other people. These were all the lessons that I learned playing music. And when I've been to this jazz festival, I've been on that main stage and I've looked up at that top railing and I've seen people looking over and I keep wondering to myself, what little kid is up there who's being transformed as a result of just being here? It's just that simple. And to think that it's free blows my mind every time. I was telling some people earlier, I remember the first time I came to the Jazz Festival, I was walking to the stage and I kept saying, well, man, where's the ticket counter? Why is everybody walking in like this? It doesn't make sense. There's no organization to this. Then it hit me later, what was going on, But having said all of that, my connection to Detroit even goes deeper, with people like Ed Love. The first time I met Ed Love, one of the things that I thought about immediately was, is his last name his real name? Or is that because he just loves his music so much? Because when I talked to him, he talked to me about with a certain type of passion for this music, Then of course, I ran into people like Ron Carter and all those great musicians like that. But there was one, there was one guy here who I loved dearly. Because I remember I went to a club to hear him play when I was in town with Art Blakey years ago. And I didn't bring my horn. And the first thing he says, man, come on up and play my horn. And we hung out and we jammed all night long. And I gotta tell you, that was the first time, and I'm not kidding you when I say this, that was the first time in my life where a jam session was a jam session based on true admiration and love, not contempt, conceit, and jealousy. And I had so much fun, because I had this thing about going to jam sessions, because sometimes you go to a jam session and it's not about the passion for the music, it's about proving something else. And that's not where I come from. That's not the reason why I play music. But with Marcus Belgrave, I love that man to death, because he really has a passion for playing music. And you see it through the Bob Hurst, through the Kenny Garretts, through the other people who he's mentored. Who's gone out and made big names for themselves. So this festival has a long, long history just based on the musicians who were involved. When you talk about mentorship, I always have to talk about Art Blakey. I was telling Stephen earlier, with Malcolm X, I always used to say the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I need to start saying the Honorable Art Blakey because I'm always quoting Art Blakey, because those 4 years that I played with him were like 40. Because I aged like 40 years. I started with him when I was 19 years old. And it was an amazing experience. And to this day, I just turned 50, and to this day, I'm still quoting him. To this day. And I told all of those quotes to him. And it's interesting because it falls in line with what jazz is all about, passing the lineage on generation after generation after generation. You guys should feel proud. You really should. Because I know how it gets sometimes when you're in your own city. Sometimes you may not get a chance to really understand what it is you have. But take it from somebody who's not from here, you have a treasure in this festival. Because I've been to a lot of festivals around the world. I've been to a bunch of them, all around the world. And some of them have the gall to call themselves a jazz festival. And you go, so why am I here? Oh, right, I legitimize the whole thing. The one act out of 50. But here, I see names that I admire on the list. I see names that I want to see and go out and hear. I see names that I try to break my neck to go and check out if I'm in town. I see names that I get upset when I find out we're playing at the same time. Damn, like I'm really, oh man. That speaks volumes because those people are the people who made this word, this music, something that's revered around the world. They don't get the credit for it. They're not national names, they should be national heroes. But that's another fight for another time. What you guys are doing here, for me, is the beginning of that fight. Because you're showing the world what a true jazz festival is supposed to be about. You should feel very proud about that. I'm very proud to be a part of it. I'm very proud to be a part of the festival, working with Chris. We worked at Wayne State a couple of years ago, doing some things together, and I just love the whole idea of the community being involved. Involved, not sitting on the sidelines, but being involved. So think about a person like me, because I'm no different than him. There's no difference between me and him, and I told him that earlier. I look back, I'm not too proud to tell you, I look back on my own career and go, damn. Because if by the grace of God, go I. Yeah. I could have gone a lot of different ways. And when I look back and people start to read my resume, I go, wow, okay. Because I think about some of the people I grew up with, and it was this music that kept me from that. It was the music that opened my eyes to a broader world. It was the music that opened my eyes to being a responsible adult, being a responsible person, giving back to the community. And I told him earlier, one of the things Art Blakey always used to tell us, if you have something to offer, the world will be the path to your door. And that's something we need to continue to strive to teach our youth who feel entitled. We need to let them know you have to have something to offer. When you look at these guys, and you see these guys playing at this festival, I'll be willing to bet there are going to be a lot of kids who are going to question, who are these guys? Why do they do what they do? And that's the beginning of their journey into finding out who they are as human beings and how they can be productive citizens. So be proud. I'm very proud to be here, to be a part of it, and I look forward to everything that's going to happen this summer and in the coming years. Thank you.
To close off, I think it's always important to have some music because that's what this is about, but in the tradition of what the festival's talking about today, mentorship and collaboration, we want to put together a special ensemble to create something spontaneous and celebrate a very specific coming together of entities. While there's some greatness, always greatness in bands that have worked together for a long time, the camaraderie and musical subtleties that can come out of that relationship. It's also wonderful to put musicians together and have them work within the repertoire and vocabulary of this music that we all study and create something on the spot. So we wanted to bring together different echelons of musicians here to feature, and I want to introduce each one of them to you. First, the gentleman that Terence was talking about. I heard this young saxophone player. He's a high school musician. I heard him play and I went, It's not like Dexter Gordon meets this and that, man. I mean, this kid was really learning the language, and he was playing, and he felt great, and he swung, and everything was there. And when I met him, he was a perfect gentleman as well, and a very bright young man. So we wanted to give him a chance to be in the ensemble scene. Please welcome the bandstand, Stephen Grady. A couple of students that have gone on from the Detroit Public Schools and other public schools to the college level. We wanted to have them join in as well. So, student at DSA, now Wayne State University, Denzel Donald on trombone. And on the guitar, a wonderful guitarist. First time I heard him. The thing about guitar is there's so many traditions that go back to rock and roll and pop. And this guy, when I heard him, he reminded me of Charlie Christian. Not the notes he was playing, it was the articulation, the accents. So he was getting horn-like phrasing out of the guitar. It was beautiful and harkens back to the beginning of that bebop guitar tradition. A very creative young man. Please welcome Sasha Kashpirko. A couple of musicians in the heart of their career. You all know these folks. They're always doing a million different projects and playing with everybody, and they're folks that I hold true and dear to my heart, because they're guys I've grown up with and I've admired for a long time. Both good friends. On bass, Mr. Paul Keller. And on trumpet, a guy, we had Eddie Daniels here a couple years ago. We did a set at Baker's. The place was packed on a Wednesday night. We were just playing music and cats sitting in. And this guy came in on trumpet and played with Eddie. And Eddie, as you may not know, was he and Joe Henderson were the first lieutenant players with the Village Vanguard, Mel Lewis and Thad Jones. And Eddie listened to the tune, the second tune, third tune. He looked at me and said, "Man, if Thad was still around, he'd hire this guy on the spot. Nobody swings like this cat." A true Detroit hero. Dwight Adams.
That's right. That's right.
And there's so many great jazz masters in Detroit. It's hard to pick. I was so pleased that Mr. Charles Bowles and Marion Hayden were able to play for us earlier. Once again, can I please And then the drummer, this guy, again, I heard him when he was quite young, and he self-admittedly had a lot to learn, but from the minute he started to play, you heard that feel, that indescribable swing, that concept that is just impossible to teach and very, very difficult to put your finger on. This guy had it, and then he worked hard. And he hung around, and he got to meet the cats, and he studied, and he's become just a wonderful, wonderful drummer. And a dear friend. Nate Wynn on the drums. And as I said, we need some representation from the masters in our community. There is no one that rises to that in my mind that's quite equal to this gentleman on piano. He has been a hero since I was a child. I consider him a genius. I consider him one of the gifts that music has given this world. One of the great piano players, Mr. Gary Shunk. Yeah. We wanted to think of a tune and decided to do something by Curtis Fuller since he's going to be with us. He did a crazy arrangement with Blakey's band on Three Blind Mice, a tune you all know. And so we reworked it a little bit, thought we'd have a little fun with it this afternoon. So I give you the, for lack of a better name, the Generations Band, playing Curtis Fuller's Three Blind Mice. Thank you.